For years, the tension between Prince William, Kate Middleton, Prince Harry, and Meghan Markle has been one of the biggest stories surrounding the British royal family. But now, a new report has brought the family feud back into the spotlight. According to royal commentator Emily Andrews, Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, reportedly held what she described as crisis talks after King Charles met privately with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. And the reason behind their reported reaction is being described in one powerful word: humiliation. But what exactly happened? And does this really mean there is a new crisis inside the royal family? Or is there something much bigger happening behind the scenes? Let's break it down. The latest controversy centers around a private meeting between King Charles and Prince Harry. The meeting reportedly took place at Highgrove House, the king's private residence and a place deeply connected to the royal family. According to reports, the meeting was relatively short, lasting only a few hours, but its significance was much greater. Buckingham Palace confirmed the meeting shortly afterward, although no official photograph was released and very few details were publicly disclosed. That immediately raised questions. Why now? Why was King Charles willing to meet Harry after years of tension? And most importantly, how did Prince William and Kate react? According to Emily Andrews, William and Kate were reportedly betrayed and possibly even humiliated by the king's decision to meet Harry and Meghan. The claim is that the Prince and Princess of Wales have spent years dealing with the consequences of the Sussexes' departure from royal life and the public criticism that followed. Harry's interviews, the Netflix documentary, and especially his memoir, Spare, exposed deeply personal disagreements within the family. For William, those revelations were not simply embarrassing headlines. They represented a serious breakdown of trust between two brothers who had once been extremely close. That is why the king's decision to reopen communication with Harry could be seen very differently by William. From William's perspective, reconciliation might look like rewarding someone after years of public criticism. But from Charles's perspective, the situation may be much simpler. Harry is still his son, and despite everything that has happened, Charles may believe that family relationships should not remain permanently broken. This is where the story becomes much more complicated, because there are actually two completely different interpretations of the same meeting. One interpretation is that Harry and Meghan have achieved a major victory. They stepped away from royal duties, moved to the United States, publicly criticized parts of the institution, and yet Harry has now returned to Britain and secured private time with his father. From that perspective, the meeting could be viewed as a triumph for the Sussexes. That is essentially the argument presented by Emily Andrews. But another interpretation is completely different. Crisis management expert Holly Baird has argued that the word crisis itself may be misleading. She explained that in crisis communications, crisis talks do not necessarily mean an emergency or a dramatic confrontation. They can simply mean that an institution recognizes that a particular story has become important enough to require active management. That could involve discussions about public appearances, timing, messaging, media strategy, or whether the royal family should respond to a developing narrative. And this is a very important distinction. There is currently no public evidence that William and Kate are experiencing a personal relationship crisis with each other. The phrase crisis talks appears to be referring to the wider situation surrounding Harry, Meghan, Charles, and the royal family. In other words, the crisis may be about the royal narrative, not necessarily the Wales's marriage. And that changes the entire story. Think about the position William and Kate are currently in. They are not simply another married couple within the royal family. William is the heir to the throne. Every public decision he makes is watched closely because he will eventually become king. Kate, meanwhile, is expected to become queen alongside him. That means their public image is incredibly important. The last thing they need is for the royal family to become trapped in another endless cycle of Harry and Meghan headlines. And that may explain why this latest reunion has created so much discussion. For years, the Harry and Meghan story has dominated royal coverage. Every interview, every statement, every family appearance can reopen the same old questions. Who is right? Who betrayed whom? Who should apologize? And can the family ever reconcile? Holly Baird made another interesting point. She suggested that the reunion could actually give both sides an opportunity to move away from the conflict narrative. Instead of another chapter about accusations and family warfare, the story could potentially become one about reconciliation, family, and moving forward. But there is one major obstacle: trust. According to the reporting, the relationship between William and Harry remains deeply damaged. And even if Charles wants to rebuild his relationship with his youngest son, that does not mean William is ready to do the same. The future king may simply choose to keep his distance. And Kate could find herself in an extremely complicated position, between supporting her husband, respecting the king, and dealing with a family situation that refuses to disappear. So, is this really a humiliation for William and Kate? That depends entirely on how you look at it. If royal relationships are treated like a competition, then Harry's reunion with his father could certainly be portrayed as a victory for the Sussexes. But if the goal is to repair a broken family, then nobody necessarily has to lose. King Charles can rebuild his relationship with his son without William immediately forgiving his brother. And William can maintain his boundaries while the king attempts to repair his own family relationship. In my analysis, that is probably the most important point in this entire story. The royal family does not necessarily have one single position on Harry. Charles is a father. William is the future king. And those two roles can produce very different priorities. Charles may be thinking about his son. William may be thinking about trust, stability, and the future of the monarchy. And Kate may be focused on protecting the family she has built with William. So while headlines about crisis talks sound explosive, the reality may be far more complicated. This may not be the beginning of another royal war. It could actually be the beginning of a new phase, one where King Charles tries to rebuild his relationship with Harry while William maintains his distance. But whether that strategy can work without creating even more tension inside the royal family remains the biggest question. Because one thing is clear: the Harry and William story is far from over. And as long as the brothers remain divided, every meeting, every appearance, and every royal decision will continue to be watched for signs of what happens next.